In this video, we're going to be showing you guys how to make a traditional bowstring, so stay tuned. Hey you guys, welcome back. You're watching Point on Archery and I'm your host Brad. Thanks for being here. So today in this tutorial we've got a really special one for you. This is a video that I've been working on for quite a while now, and a little over a year ago I got together with a friend of mine named Mike Dickerson of Bow Hunters Unlimited. Bow Hunters Unlimited is actually my home range. It's the range that I started shooting at a few years ago when I got back into traditional archery. And in this tutorial today, Mike is going to take us through the process of making a traditional bowstring from scratch without a jig. And I had a lot of fun making this video, and I hope you guys have a lot of fun watching it, and hopefully you guys get a lot out of it. So let's jump into it.
My name is Mike Dickerson. It's March 9th, 2019. I'm going to make a bowstring without a string jig. This is how I've been doing it. Other people do it this way and other methods. They all work. This is what I found works for me. First of all, we're going to strip off the strands of material. In this case, I use my bow for the gauge. I go roughly a foot on each end, or 2 feet longer than the bow in the unstringed position. So I've got a foot on this end and I've got a foot on this end. Take that off, fold it over. This is going to be a 12-strand string, so I'm going to take off material and fold it over. So I have 2 strands there now. Folding it over makes 3. I continue this process till I've achieved my 12 strands. Now I've got 4 here. I'm going to pull off 1 more. Then I'm going to throw in another thread for coloring. Lock them together now by rolling them away from me. That's my number 1 group right there. I'm going to make my number 2 group next. I use my first group as my gauge for my second group. I want to have another group of strands the same length. Just going back and forth and building up the number of strands that I have here. I'm now at 4. This will be number 5, and then 6. Now what I'm going to do is make my lower loop. So we take off with our tails approximately 12 inches. We form a V. And we're going to have ourselves 2 groups of strands. We can call one the top and one the bottom. What happens is I take the strands, I roll the group away from me, and then bring it towards me under my thumb. This now becomes my top. I do the same thing. Roll it, bring it under my thumb. I repeat that process several times to form a loop for my lower limb. Different bows are constructed in different ways. This particular bow has channels. Those channels have to be conformed to. If you make your loop too small, it'll want to go to one side or the other, thus inducing a limb twist in your limb. We're going to make sure that it conforms to the notch in this bow. This needs one more twist. That shows you how they twist together. Now I'm going to fold over. The tails, it makes no difference which side goes to which. I form my loop, I pinch the loop, and I start rotating the same way with the tails stuck into the main body of the string. As I do that, I form my loop. I go down roughly 3 inches. And now what I'm going to do is take one group of the tails. I'm going to cut the ends. And I'm going to divide them. I want roughly half. If it's not exactly half, it doesn't matter because this is for aesthetics only. I lay it back in. I start my twist again for 1 inch. I go down roughly 1 inch. And I take the tails, all the tails of the second group out. There's the first group, there's the second group of tails. Then I continue my twisting process. And I take whatever leftover tails I have left over, pop them out, then I twist 3 or 4 more times, creates a little lock, keeps it from unraveling. What we've achieved there is we now have a taper. You can see the diameter is larger than here It's for physical appearances only. It has nothing to do with the strength. The strength's in that first 1.5 inches. Now I fold, put my lower nock on the bow, and I stretch out my strands. I do not want this condition here of it loose like that. I want even tension on both groups of strands like that. I'm going to come down about 5-6 inches and I'm going to start my loop. Different materials stretch at different rates. This is called B55. It has a high stretch value. If I was using B50, I'd come down about 4 inches from the tip. In the case of the B55, I'm coming down 5 to 6 inches because it's going to stretch that much. If I was using fast flight, which this bow won't accept, I'd put it up here within 2 inches of the tip because it just doesn't stretch much. So, I get to the point where I want, and then I start my bowstring process again of twisting. Roll it away, bring it under my thumb. Just continue that process until you form your loop. The top loop will be bigger than the smaller loop because it's a slider. Fold it over, make sure it slides. It does. Form my loop, and I start my twisting process again. Come down about 3 inches and I start kicking my tails out again. I cut them so I can divide them. Pull out 3 strands. Kick them to the side. Continue my twisting process for 1 inch. Or I kick out 100% of the other tails. Continue the twisting process for another inch. Kick out whatever tails are left over. Wrap it 2 or 3 more times and it locks it in. I take my upper loop, I put it on my upper limb, slide it down. I'm going to slide it down roughly 6-7 inches. Then I am going to shorten the string. To shorten a string, you tighten it. It makes it shorter. If you loosen it, it makes it longer. So in this case, we're going to be tightening it. So, at this point I'm going to put my lower limb loop on. I'm going to separate my threads so they're not stuck in here like this. I need those untangled. If I try to untangle them after the bowstring strung, it won't work. They bind up. So we have the upper ones unbound. Now, I advocate you use a bowstringer. If you don't, especially on the low poundage limbs, you can induce a limb twist. Now we're going to string the bow. You notice how I hold the bow, keep control. I want to maintain I have that in the grooves. So at this point, you'll notice that my brace height is a little high. First thing we're going to do is we're going to cut these tails off. I pull them out at 90 degrees, pull tension on them, and cut them off. So you see, I have the bowstring and the brace height's too high. Now, as I told you on the B55 string, it stretches a lot. So I will press down and demonstrate how much it stretches. Considerable amount. Once I've stretched it out like that, I'm going to take my serving tool. My serving tool, I like to loosen it, pull out some strands, and put it on the center of the spool. That way when I'm wrapping my serving, I have an even tension. If the string oscillates back and forth, the tension keeps changing, you have to keep adjusting. We have ourselves 12 strands here. The knock on my arrow, he likes 15 to 16. So what we're going to do is I'm going to add material. I cut off a piece of my serving material. The serving starts 1.5 inches to 2 inches above the shelf and extends down past the shelf another 5 to 6 inches. I like to start with a overhand knot like that. I lay my additional strands on my string and then I start wrapping over that. One turn, then I fold these back over and I continue the process. Now the reason that I'm using the amount of material I am is because I want my arrow to hang on to the string. I don't want it flopping around. So now I will go down roughly a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch. Then I'm going to take an arrow with the size nock I use and try it out. Should snap on just like that. Next I'll continue my serving process. And when I get past the shelf, I'll trim off my tails on my spacer material. So after we've gone past where our arrow's going to rest, we can start getting rid of these tails. And I like to do 1 or 2 at a time depending on the amount. And you don't even notice the change in the diameter visually. I'll go down here another inch or so. So I'll go down roughly 5 inches below the shelf, and then I'll finish it off with a whip finish. So we've gone down below our shelf to the strike zone where it will hit our sleeve. We're going to finish this off. The finish that we use is called a whip finish, and there's a couple of methods of achieving that. The method I like to use is a little simpler. Once you learn it, it's really simple. You hold the thread, you come around, you make yourself a ½ inch over your string. This provides you a third hand. It won't come undone now. So now I take my serving tool, I form a loop in the bottom. I'm going to go over the string and back towards the serving 6 times. Now I'm going to serve the same direction I was originally by hand, and as I wrap this way, it comes unwrapped on this side. Once I've done that, I pull it taut. Now, very slow tension, I pull this tight. And that should hold for the life of the string. So this is a bowstring with serving. Now, whenever you're using B50 or B55 string, you shoot it about 50 times before you put a knock point on. If you put your knock point on too early, the string will settle down and your knock point will be off. To put a knock point on, if you have a gauge, you can measure this. If you don't use a gauge like this, you put the arrow on approximately 90 degrees and then push it up so you have a downhill slant on your arrow. You see the gap between the back end of the arrow and the front? Because as you draw, the fingers change its angle, and now it lays right on the rest. So I would put my knock point up here because I shoot 3 fingers underneath. And that is a typical bowstring construction.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Any final words for the people out there?
Have fun.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Alright y'all, well that's it for the video today. I want to say thank you guys so much for being here. I also want to give a big thanks to Mike again for letting me come down and shoot that little video for you guys to enjoy. I also want to give another big shout out to all the club members at Bowhunters Unlimited. Thank you guys so much for maintaining the range and putting together all those fun shoots that we have throughout the year. I hope you guys enjoyed this video again. If you did enjoy this video, please hit that like button below. I'd really appreciate it. Also remember to comment, subscribe, and share this video to anybody out there who you think might enjoy this or just get something out of it. So yeah guys, remember to get outside, get to the range, and keep training y'all.